Brent, good to see you. Today we are talking through the 4 expenses that retirees almost always underestimate. It is incredibly important to nail down those known expenses in retirement so you can build an income plan around them. The number one cost that we almost always underestimate is healthcare. Medicare doesn't cover everything, and long-term care can wipe out your savings if you don't have insurance.
Absolutely. So Medicare, you're going to pick up your Part A and your Part B when you turn 65. A is premium free. B is around 174 bucks. That's pretty well known. But what's not known is A and B only covers 80% of your medical costs. So a lot of times we will attach a Medicare supplement. It's another 125-ish bucks a month, but that's going to cover the other 20% of expenses. And then lastly, you're going to need a Part D plan. And so that's not mandatory, but if you ever try to get onto it, if you don't accept it right at 65, or when you get onto Part B, they're going to charge you a penalty down the road. So you need to factor in another $5 to $50 depending on what medications you're taking.
And then long-term care here, if we project this out, Brent, we plugged in Columbus here, projected out to 2043, these costs are skyrocketing.
Yeah, so when we were discussing before we jumped on here, 7 out of 10 people are going to have a long-term care stay in their life. So chances are this may be you. And so what we factor on is, okay, I've got a grandma who's in long-term care right now, memory care at $9,000 a month. Well, if you're 55, 60, 65, that's not what you're going to pay because you're not going to have this event most likely till later on in your life. So right here, if we look down at the bottom right, $16,481.
Wow.
So what that does, if you don't prepare for this, is you end up whittling down on your assets at an incredibly high rate. And so there are ways to leverage small amounts of money now to create a bucket of funds for the possibility of this event down the road.
All right, number 2, housing. Even if you own your home outright, you're still going to have expenses.
Yeah, this is a big conversation in our area because we've had a lot of tech companies move in the central Ohio area. It's driving home values up. And we're not the only ones in the country experiencing this. So even if you don't have a mortgage, you can almost guarantee that your taxes are going to continue to increase. And so it's important to plan on when you're taking withdrawals from your retirement accounts, don't factor on just taking X amount steady for the next 10, 20 years. That's not going to work. You have to have cost of living adjustments built into it because home costs especially are going to continue to increase. You will also want to proactively plan for things like a roof, things like a new furnace, things like maybe a new driveway. There are going to be some big ticket expenses that come up. That's just the cost of home ownership that most people fully understand after owning a home for 40 years. So be proactive.
Right. Next, of course, taxes. A lot of retirees will still be paying income taxes, and a lot of people don't realize that Social Security is taxed.
Yeah, let's start with Social Security. So it is more favorably taxed, but it is still taxed. And most of the clients we work with, they are going to be taxed in some form of Social Security. I won't bore you with all the specifics on it. Just know that the more you draw from your retirement accounts that are taxable, the more your Social Security is going to be taxed. So there's some strategies that we can employ to lower that, but it's something that needs to be discussed and a plan put in place. The other big one we see is a lot of people were told, save into a 401k, defer the taxes. You're going to be in a lower tax bracket. Well, we are in a historically low tax bracket now. Chances are that's going to go up at 31 trillion or whatever it is for the federal government's debt. They have to raise the revenue from people like us. And so that expense is not controlled. If they raise taxes, you have pre-tax funds, you better believe that you're going to owe a little bit more as well. So once again, proactive planning.
And then last, the only fun expense on this list, travel and leisure. We want to enjoy this hard-earned retirement.
Correct. So this isn't a must, this isn't a need, but this is very common one. Most people say, Brent, I work 50 hours a week for 40 years. I want to go do all these things that I put aside. National parks, European trips, whatever it may be. So once again, when we're asking in our first meeting, what's your goals? If I hear travel, the wheels start turning. So you've got a couple ways of funding that. You can do it monthly, or you can set aside maybe like within an IRA, a bucket of funds that we know that we're going to access purely for travel. I find personally that folks have a hard time if they don't have the funds earmarked. So I like to say, guys, this is your travel bucket, and please use it. And then when I meet with them, I say, why have we not taken any money out of this thing? And so by proactively planning on that, that's going to allow you to be able to take those trips, and most importantly, guilt-free.
So what are some tips to avoid these surprise expenses?
So surprise expenses, they're always going to come up. Once again, it's being proactive. You really just need to have the funds in place. And so what I try to do is when we take a look at your full accounts, I don't want to draw the very maximum. I want to be drawing a little bit lower than what I think is the maximum from those accounts. So when we do have these surprise expenses come up, it's okay to dip in and take 10,000 out for a new HVAC system or whatever. And so once again, it comes back to planning. And what we try to do is be incredibly honest. I know you want X, but maybe we can do a little bit lower than that so we can leave a little fluff in the budget.
Yeah. It's so helpful to talk this through, Brent. If somebody wants to talk through their budget and creating a financial plan with you, how can they reach you?
614-430-8383 or go to young-wm.com. Becca will get you connected with one of us. We'd love to chat.
Great. Brent, thank you.
Thank you.